Guys, welcome back to the Desert Spring. Today we have an absolutely amazing episode where we go into almost everything you could imagine. We talk about politics, we talk about the war in Iran, we also talk about walking away from Christianity and advice for young men today. If you want to hear about any of these topics, please stay till the end of the video. If you could like and subscribe and comment on the video, that would really help out the algorithm, because unfortunately, unless we do these things, this video basically goes into the YouTube graveyard of videos that didn't get enough views and enough comments and likes and stuff. The algorithm exists to basically say if a video gets enough action and enough stuff going on, then it'll show it to more people. If it doesn't get enough action and not enough stuff going on, then it's not going to show it to anybody, and it'll just die in the graveyard of YouTube videos. So please, if you do support the channel and you do like what we're doing here, please leave a like, please leave a comment. Even if you don't say anything, even if you just put a period in the comment section, or throw up a question mark or an exclamation point, who knows, even that little bit is enough to help out the algorithm so more people can see what we're doing here. Also, if you'd like to be a part of the channel, if you'd like to have your story told, please email me directly at thedesertspring111@gmail.com, desertspring111@gmail.com. I'll put it up here on the video so that you can see it. And reach out to me, let me know your story. And also, I just want to thank you guys for reaching out to me there. I get so many stories of you guys just really quickly telling me your stories of how you left Christianity, not necessarily wanting advice or wanting direction, but you just tell me your story, and I love those emails so much. I always love hearing people's stories about how they left Christianity. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get into this video, and stay till the end, because we're going to be talking about some topics that are kind of touchy. And we also get a little bit into the Epstein files and all that kind of stuff too. So, okay, guys, and I'll go ahead and start over to the. Today we have John. John is a person who grew up in fundamentalist Christianity. Is that right? Fundamentalist Christianity.
Yep.
And has transitioned out of it, and we're going to hear his story. He's going to tell us his story. But before we get into it, if you guys could please like and subscribe and comment, these things really help out the algorithm. YouTube is one where if you don't interact with the video in any way, these videos just go completely dead in the water. So I hate to be the person to ask for that kind of help, but if you guys, if we don't support this stuff, it'll just go into the graveyard of YouTube videos. So today we have John. We're gonna kind of let him introduce himself. John, you want to tell us a little bit about kind of who you are, kind of a general introduction before we get into it?
Sure. My dad, Church of Christ, fundamentalist. I grew up in the Church of Christ specifically. We were forced to go 4 or 5 times a week. Every Sunday service, morning and night, Wednesday, Thursday, and I want to say Friday or Saturday we did potlucks and stuff. But there was always something going on. Had to do vacation Bible school every summer. I was sent to church camp. I can't remember what the name of it was for the life of me, but it was some Christian summer camp, sleepaway camp. But I never really believed, even as a kid. I had all sorts of questions, and it never sat right with me. One of the first things that kind of had me doubting, I guess, is we would drive past dozens of churches to get to our little church. And I asked my dad, why don't we go to one of these churches? And he said, well, they don't worship right. And I said, how? They're worshiping the same book and the same God and everything, right? They're Christians just like us. And he was like, you just have to have faith that we're right and they're not. And I said, but they have faith, right? Like they teach faith and stuff just like we do. So how can their faith be wrong and ours be right? And ever since that conversation, the religion didn't sit right with me, I was like, this can't be true.
Yeah.
And then all through Sunday school, they would tell stories that I was just like, this sounds silly. And one day we were at the bookstore and I wanted to get The Hobbit. And my dad sat me down and gave me a huge lecture for like an hour. Everything in this book is fiction. This is fantasy. Nothing in this book is real. Like, just so you know, this isn't reality. This is a fantasy book. I said, yeah, Dad, sure. So I took it home and read it. And it was less fantasy than the Bible was. Like, I can't believe in dwarves, but you're telling me the crazy stuff in the Bible was happening, you know.
They blew
Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt,
yeah,
but
they blew
a fire-breathing dragon is a bridge too far.
Yeah, they blew a trumpet and a brick wall fell down. You know.
Yeah. But and then so that like solidified my disbelief right there. I was just like, he sat here and was adamant how fake The Hobbit was, but then he expects me to believe this book that has way crazier shit in it.
Yeah.
Like a divine being creating a human being out of mud.
Yeah.
But
so at what age were you whenever you kind of basically started struggling with just accepting the faith? You sinner. No.
I don't know. I was probably like 9 or 10 maybe.
Yeah.
When all this happened.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, we would be in service, and I would just be watching everybody while they're like praying and singing. Like, I don't know if you know, in Church of Christ, there's no instruments allowed in the church.
Yeah.
It's all a cappella singing.
Yeah.
And I would just be looking around at all these people singing these songs, and I was like, this is nuts. Like, you're all crazy people. Like, I'm in the crazy house.
Yeah.
And when I was 16, I finally told my dad, I was like, listen, I don't believe any of this. You know, I don't want to go to church anymore. And at first he was cool. He was like, that's fine. You know, if you don't believe, you don't believe, but just so you know, it's all true. I said, yeah, you believe that, but I don't want to go to church anymore. But
and this was all before kind of the age of information, where you could just casually Google something and find like a plethora of material on it, you know.
I had no idea that not believing in God was a thing you could actually do. Like, I thought I was evil.
Yeah.
Like, because that's what they taught in the church was being a rapist and a murderer is better than being an atheist.
Right.
And I really tried. I would spend nights, like in those early years, 10, 11 years old, like crying, like praying to God, like, hey, if you do exist, come talk to me. Please, let's have a chat so I can believe in you. Because I'm walking around a house full of Christians that all believe. I just couldn't do it. I don't know what it is about my thought process, but and then nothing ever happened, and so I couldn't force myself to believe. You can't.
Right.
You're either convinced of something or you're not. Right.
Exactly. So whenever so kind of walk me a little bit through the family dynamics on that. Did you ever deal with like a lot of because I know growing up, I had never really expressed disbelief. I was very, very much like a really deep believer. But whenever I would see people express disbeliefs, it was like the most serious thing brought to the church. We're going to have an entire group of people pray over you. They're going to attempt to cast out demons, you know, like all sorts of stuff. Did you ever experience any of that?
No. Like every time I would ask questions like that, it would just be, just have faith. You just got to have faith. And my dad did take me to like the head pastor a couple times, but that wasn't so much. They didn't talk to me about like my questions and stuff. It was more just kind of like, listen to what the head pastor has to say in private, you know?
Yeah.
But I was a young kid, so I didn't really listen. I was just like, I don't believe this. Can I eat these jelly beans on the desk? There was something I was going to say. Oh, the only time I ever got in any sort of trouble was at the sleepaway camp.
Yeah,
They would do,
the vacation, the little summer camps, the Christian camps.
yeah. So at the end of every day, they would do baptisms in the river. And one of the days, they were doing the baptisms, and I was making fun of the people getting baptized because I thought it was silly. I was like, how's this do anything? Like,
Yeah.
if your God wants to forgive you, he'll forgive you. You don't have to fucking douse yourself in a river.
Yeah, exactly.
And the camp counselors were all like, hey, if you don't want to be here, you can go to the playground. And I was like, wait, instead of sitting here in silence, I can go play at the playground? All right, bet. And so off I went to the playground. I'm sitting there swinging, playing on the monkey bars, and I had a blast. But that's the only time it's ever, well, caused me any trouble for like my disbelief like that.
Yeah.
But like I was saying earlier, when my dad first was like, hey, that's fine if you don't believe or whatever, he didn't really mean it, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think he just was in shock because it completely changed how he treated me after that point.
Yeah.
He was much more strict with me. I wasn't allowed to leave the house. I ended up running away from home shortly afterwards.
Me too.
Because there was one day I had a date, and in high school, dates are everything.
Yeah.
And I went to go leave the house, and my dad was like, where are you going? I said, hey, I'm going on a date. And he asked me if I did my chores. I said, I didn't have any chores today. He said, well, you need to stay here until I think of some chores for you. And I said, no, I'm going on this date. And then he like stepped to me. He said, you want to go? You trying to fight me? I said, I was like, you're a grown man and I'm a child. I'm leaving. And I just left and never went back.
That's crazy.
And I ended up staying at a friend's house for a long time.
Yeah.
And he came and he had to talk with me in the parking lot at my friend's apartment. And he was apologetic. He was like, hey, I shouldn't have behaved that way. I want you to come home. And I said, no, you burnt that bridge. Sorry. And I never went back. We're good now. It took like 10 years, but now he comes and visits and stuff, and we talk. But
yeah, did you ever have any sort of kind of like negative, like was your dad ever kind of one of those domineering type Christians? A couple of things that I think of. There's plenty of times where my dad, basically lost his shit, and whenever we would go back to him, it doesn't matter that my dad's 82. He's very immature, but emotionally speaking. But whenever we would ask him about stuff, and even today, I'd ask him about stuff, and he was like, "Well, no, I was righteous in doing that because it was, God's will. We're talking about God's will, so I can behave that way because I'm doing the will of God." Like, did you ever run into that kind of stuff with your dad?
no, not really, because I never really confronted him about anything.
Yeah.
And after a certain point, when you get told just have faith enough times, you like, I'm just stop asking questions, and I'm just gonna sit here in my non-belief, and
Yeah, for sure.
you do whatever you think it is your God wants you to do, and I'll do whatever it is
Yeah,
I want to do.
that feels right for me.
But it did weigh on me for a long time, though. Because everywhere I've gone, I didn't know atheism was a thing.
Yeah.
And I thought that I was just an evil, bad person for not being able to believe. And it made me really depressed and stuff. And I was an alcoholic for a long time. I'm actually 6 years sober this year.
This was in your congratulations. Was this in
Thank
your
you.
20s or teens? Where was this?
In my teens. I started drinking around 17, 18.
Okay.
Real heavily.
Were you kind of like struggling with the identity, or just kind of struggling with the lack of community and just kind of feeling alone?
Both, I think.
Yeah.
I was struggling with the lack of community because I thought I was alone in the world. I thought everybody was a Christian.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anybody I could talk to about anything that wasn't religious affiliated, and then struggling with the sense of not despair, but when you feel like you're a shitty person. I think there's a term for it, but
yeah.
you know, I just felt like I was evil because that's how I was raised. Like, if you don't believe you're evil, and so I tried to
kind of a helpless feeling.
Yeah. And so I would be like, if God exists, why did he make me not believe so I can go to hell? Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
So I also became kind of suicidal for a bit.
Yeah.
A lot of suicidal ideation, because I was like, why don't I just skip to the finish line? Like, I didn't dislike my life. I was happy with my life and stuff. I just was like, what's the point? I might as well just get to the end and actually meet this guy if he exists.
Right,
you know?
Right, yeah.
But
did you ever have any sort of like did you ever have any, because I know for me, I had experienced a lot of the stuff that you've experienced, and especially whenever I was walking away from Christianity, you felt that stuff a lot sooner, but I grew up in like a super abusive, I was the youngest of like 10 kids, 12 kids, so I'm the one who's getting shit on by everybody. and so I was suicidal much earlier than teens. I was like suicidal by like 6 years old. I was like, I hate this fucking place. but yeah, so whenever I started kind of leaving God and all that kind of stuff, I remember that there was like a big fear. One of the things that kept me from attempting was the fear of hell. It's because I don't know if Church of Christ preaches this, and maybe you can kind of go into a little bit of what the Church of Christ teaches. But what we were taught kind of in Pentecostal, Baptist, all that kind of stuff, is that killing yourself was a sin. It is a sin. And so if it, and they also had this other thing where if you have any sort of unrepented sin, then you would go to hell. And so you couldn't, even though you're a Christian, you couldn't do a sin last second and still go to heaven. Like, you had to repent of all your sins and kind of crazy shit like that. But I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, well, how fucking rigged is this shit that I'm living in hell? And if I decide I want to fucking end this shit, then I go to fucking hell. Like, how the fuck is, and so for a while I was just like, dude, this is absolute bullshit. I'm fucking trapped here. Did you ever experience anything like that?
No, not really. Because I never believed in hell. And I figured, what's the worst it could be? Like, even if it was real. I won't have a nervous system, so I can't feel pain.
Right.
And then there's a story in the Bible. I don't remember if it's Lazarus is in hell or something. But he's like, hey, can I get a drop of water on my tongue to, my tongue's parched or whatever.
I know that one. Yeah.
And then I was all like, well, if he's able to carry on a casual conversation, it can't be that bad. I've been in pain before to where you can't talk to people, it hurts so bad you can't talk. So if he's able to just be like, hey, what's up, man, can I get some water?
It can't be that bad.
It can't be that bad. Maybe it's like a hot Texas day or something. Maybe it's like 110 degrees outside.
I was about to say, it's
at least it's not humid, right? But
I'm fucking dead. Imagine 115 and 90% humidity. All right, that's hell. And a lot of people live that on a daily basis. Yeah. Oh man, that's so fun.
So I was never really afraid of it, and I'm a big believer of if it's outside of your control, fuck it.
Yeah.
And sorry if I cuss.
No.
I don't know
I
if
cuss
you
on the show all the time. It's fine.
Okay. But yeah, it's out of my control. It's if there's a God and he wants to send me there, then so be it. I'll deal with it when it happens.
Right. Did you ever have family basically saying that, oh, he doesn't believe because he wants to sin, or anything like, maybe you're experiencing some rough shit in your life, which we all experience because we're human, and the response, or maybe the ideology behind that is, oh well, he's not Christian, so obviously Satan is, God's letting Satan have his way with him, or anything like that. Did you ever experience anything like that?
No, it's always much more passive aggressive. Just kind of like what you're saying, your mom would send you Bible verses and stuff.
Yeah.
They've never confronted me about my atheism. They just send me like sermons and stuff. And it's about like, hey, check this out. And it'll be a sermon about like, this is doubting Thomas and why you shouldn't be an atheist, because doubting Thomas, Jesus said that, more blessed are those who believe without seeing. And I was like, but he still showed Thomas.
Yeah.
Like,
he still
that's all I'm asking for, what Thomas got.
Popped in the room and said, Thomas, you want to touch my hands?
Yeah. That's I'll be less blessed. I'm down with that. Just tell me something,
Exactly.
You're all powerful. Can you just,
Yeah.
Is it too much work for you to just pop? If you popped here on my shoulder right now,
yeah,
I bet we would all be convinced.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, nowadays AI, we'd be like,
Oh yeah. That's well, that's Christians will tell you that's why he doesn't do it, because we'll just say, oh no, it's AI.
Yeah.
Like
whatever. It's always funny, because my thing is like, when you see all the stuff that kind of goes on in the world, I always hear people that say, oh well, the world, we're separate from God, we're supposed to be these, the whole point of Jesus is so that we could have this experience, and then Jesus is going to save us and we're going to go to heaven and all this kind of shit. And I would always bring up, I'm like, well, tell me how that's just, because you have a person who's being born as a Buddhist in 15th century China, and you have a person who's being born into like into a pastor's household, right? That's not fair and just. They're not going to have the same, the same likelihood of going to heaven or something like that. And I remember my pastor would tell me, he's like, no, well, Jesus always appears to everybody at least once in their life. And I love your opinion on that, because I know that the Church of Christ has some kind of crazy beliefs surrounding that kind of stuff too. But I remember thinking to myself, like, well, that's fucking bullshit, because Jesus in the United States, Jesus appears to everybody like fucking 15 times a day, and this person's only gonna get one shot, like that's still not fair or just,
Not from my family or anything, but I have had like coworkers and stuff tell me, like, when they find out I'm an atheist, they're like, oh, you've just been brainwashed into, straying from the light or whatever. I'm like, if anything, I was brainwashed to be a Christian.
Yeah.
And like that, I spent my whole childhood in the church. Like,
exactly. All right, so let's talk about the dirty transition. You're becoming a man, you're going your own way, and now you're dealing with all the difficulty, and now you're drinking and all that kind of stuff. What was like some of the thought processes and all that kind of stuff that was going on? Because I've been there, done that, fucking throwing them back, just like that.
Yeah. I was real bad for a while.
Yeah.
But it was actually, who Jean-Paul Sartre is, the existentialist philosopher?
No. I had to look it up after.
So in like the peak of my suicidal ideation, I called the suicide hotline, and I was like, hey, I like my life. It's going well. I've got a great girlfriend, great job, but I want to kill myself, and I don't know why. And they were all like, oh, we normally don't get calls like this. And I was like, yeah, like, I just don't see a reason to go forward with anything. Like, I'm just, why not just skip to the end?
Right.
Like I said earlier,
Right.
And since I have no fear of hell and, I don't believe any of that, then what's the point?
Right.
And they couldn't help me. They're just all like, oh, people love you and don't do it because you'll make them sad. And I said, well, that's kind of selfish on their part, I think.
I hate this place. Why would I give a shit what they think?
Yeah. And and but so I ended up Googling, like, I want to kill myself and I don't know why. And Albert Camus is a existential philosopher, who, one of his most famous sayings is, the most important philosophical question is whether or not you should kill yourself. And he wrote a book called The Myth of Sisyphus. And in that, it's about how, you know the myth of Sisyphus?
No, I've not heard of that.
Well, Sisyphus was punished by the gods. I forgot what he did. But he had to roll a boulder up a hill, and whenever he got to the top of the hill, the boulder would roll down, and he'd have to roll it back up for all eternity.
Goddamn.
And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
but so the moral of the Albert Camus was like, Sisyphus has to find happiness in this task.
Yeah.
Like, knowing that there's no reason for it, it's completely absurd, but he finds joy in that absurdity, and just the sheer fact of rolling the boulder up the hill makes him happy.
Yeah.
And so one must imagine Sisyphus happy. And the moral of the story is you have to make your own meaning in the world.
Right.
And, give yourself your reason to live.
Right.
And I didn't know that was possible, because I was told my whole life, God gives you your reason to live.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that.
Yeah. And if you don't have God, you don't have a reason, right? And Jesus is the only one who's capable of dishing out happiness and peace. And so if you don't have Jesus, it's impossible, right?
Yeah. And then I read that, and they were like, oh, you can just figure it out yourself. And I was like, wait, I can figure this out myself?
Yeah.
And so I had never heard of philosophy before. I'd only heard of the Bible and shit.
Right.
And so I started diving into philosophy, reading everything starting from the very beginning, with like the, Socrates, Aristotle. I know there's philosophers before them. I just can't remember any of their Greek names.
Yeah.
But that really got my head on right. I don't know if that's, once I realized I could decide for myself why I was here.
Yeah.
And I quit smoking, quit drinking almost immediately. When I learned about Plato.
Wait a second, Jesus didn't do that for you? No.
That's something, when people tell me
Jesus will take it away.
Their proof of God being real is that, they became Christian and they got clean and sober. And I was like, well, I was the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, once I embraced my atheism, I got clean and sober.
Right.
So that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But Plato has this concept of the Demiurge, and it's like a creator god who just kind of came by. There was the materials in the universe. He assembled everything and then fucked off.
Yeah.
And so, like, set everything in motion.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that will stop me from being an atheist, so I can not be evil anymore, right? I can be a good person now, because I have this concept of, oh, well, I don't believe there's any God now, but there was one at one point who now he's off doing something else.
Right.
But I believed in that for like 2 months or something, and I was like, that's nonsense. It's essentially not believing in no God,
Yeah, yeah.
But that was my kind of stepping stone into, and then during COVID, I found there were atheists on the internet.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's more people who don't believe. And so I saw that you can be a good person without a God belief.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. Really quick before we get, because I remember you had mentioned in the email that you'd sent me that you kind of had that like initial exposure to atheists that you were put off by, and then kind of like the new exposure, or the second exposure, I guess. Really quickly though, I remember whenever, because I had gone through the whole same thing, suicide hotline, all that kind of stuff, trying to define meaning for life, all that kind of stuff. And every time I would go to one of like a Christian family member or a Christian friend or something like that, and they were like, well, God gives you meaning for life. And I'm like, well, I've been asking the fucking guy, and
right.
I've not seen, I joke around all the time. I'm like, I want a blue fucking beam to come down from the sky and fucking tell me what the fuck this shit's all about, so that, you know, I can have my big meaning and like, oh, I can have this great, you know. And so yeah, I remember whenever I was chatting with the suicide hotline and stuff too. This was probably, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago or something like that. 3 years ago. Was it? No. It was probably about 4 years ago. I remember when I was having my chat with him, it was like, you know, I love everybody, all this kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, I just hate this shit. It's a grind. Paying your bills is a grind. Getting up to go do stuff that you don't want to do is a grind. You know, it's just like, we're born into a society that doesn't hand shit out for free, you know? So it's like, at the end of the day, we're all honeybees and fucking fire ants. You know, we work until we're disposed on the pile of dead bodies, you know? And so I was kind of at that same place where I was like, well, why the fuck do I want to be here then? Kind of like you, skip to the end. You know, like, what's the purpose of doing all of this shit, doing all these fucking tasks and all this bullshit, if at the end of it, I'm going to die and either go to heaven or hell? Because at the point, that was kind of what I was still thinking. I was like, I'm either going to die or go to heaven or hell. What's the fucking point of all this shit? And so it's funny that you mentioned, like, kind of philosophy brought you out of kind of that mentality and stuff. For me, what did it was actually researching a lot of Buddhist teachings, because the Buddhist teachings are, which of course, you know, explain that to my dad. You know, you know, Jesus didn't rescue me from my depression, Buddha did. You know, that sounds great. And in a lot of the Eastern traditions and stuff like that, it basically comes down, your attachment to how your life turns out is what brings you suffering, right? And so if you just let go of trying to control how this life turns out for yourself and just allow yourself to enjoy the journey rather than trying to control the outcome, because we put guys, you know, guys in the United States have to be some of the strongest fucking guys that I know, because like, living a life on this country is fucking tough, man. Like, you want to have a family, you want to have kids, holy fuck, dude. You know, that shit's not easy. On top of that,
No,
you throw the divorce and all that kind of crap on it. You know, it's like guys have to go through these constant restarts in life. Like in my life, I've probably lost everything maybe 4 to 5 times. And so it's like, you do a bunch of stuff, then you go back and start to zero. You do a bunch of stuff, you go back, you start to zero. You go do a bunch of stuff, you go back to start to zero. And it's just like, and then, you know, the IRS is right there on top of you. All the debt collectors are right there on top of you. Everybody's like looming over your dead body, ready to take the little bits of money that you have left, you know? And so, you know, a lot of maybe this isn't the best thing to say online, but a lot of my suicidal ideation was like the quickest way to debt relief. You know, it's just like, it would be easier for me to like save up a little bit of money, write a check out to my dad so he could bury me, and then I just check out. You know,
that's I had a coworker tell me about a concept. I want to say he called it suicide retirement or something like that.
Yeah.
You just take out a bunch of loans and then just live your life on all this money, live the good life, and then kill yourself at the end so you don't have to pay any of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, but so yeah, whenever I kind of started embracing the Buddhist teachings, that's whenever I kind of started to, you know, not find purpose in my life, because I feel like that's kind of a long drawn out thing, because at the end of the day, you know, what's the purpose of your life? You choose that shit. All right? Don't expect God to come down from the sky and be like, your divine will is to worship me until the day you die. All right, well, that sucks. You know?
I'd rather just be dead, right?
I'd rather be dead. Let's skip to the end, you know?
I'd rather have no purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you skip to the end and it's, oh, guess what? Now you get to do it for all eternity.
God damn. Oh my God. No, but yeah, I remember that idea of just, you know, because at that time I was so focused my dad had a bunch of divorces. My mom had a couple of divorces, and so my thing growing up, ever since I was a child, the only thing that I had ever wanted in my entire life was to have one wife. That's it. Like, that was the goal. From 10 years old, I was that way. From 10 years old, the one plan, and that was because, you know, my parents were constantly fighting, throwing around the threat of divorce, but then Sunday mornings putting on the big ass fake smile and the perfect, you know, the perfect look at the church kind of shit. And so I remember that, like, my whole existence in life was to be married once. Like, that was my big thing, right? And whenever I got divorced, well, the only thing that I had ever wanted in life now got stripped away from me, and I can never have that. And so then it was like, well, fuck, now what the fuck am I going to do now? You know, and if I know the church, I don't know what the Church of Christ believes around divorce, but if you look at the Baptist shit, you know, 2 Timothy, all this kind of stuff, if you didn't divorce because there is infidelity, then you basically just have to stay celibate until you get back together or die. I mean, that's basically the teachings in the Bible, right? And so here I was, 24 years old, and I'm either going to stay celibate or die. At 24 years old, bro. I'm like, no way, man. Like, there's no fucking way I'm staying celibate. And, you know, and now the lifespans are goddamn to 90 years old. What am I supposed to just think of all the times I had sex when I was in my 20s? like, that's crazy, you know? And so yeah, so I found, you know, I don't necessarily, like, believe in, you know, oh, Buddha's the way or any of that bullshit, but, you know, it was funny that I found my peace and eventually found my joy in living life through Buddhist teachings, not through Jesus's teachings, you know? And I think what it is that you decide what you want your life to be about, and as long as you're living a life that feels authentic, because people don't want to be trapped in a box, right? If you put a bunch of if you put a person and you force them to act a way that they don't want to act, believe things that they don't want to believe, say things that they don't want to say, and they just feel that suppression from all sorts of angles, they're going to want to check out too, you know?
I think that's what happened to us.
Yeah. And that's really what it was, you know? I got it a little bit from the religion, but I also got it from society. Because me, I love animals. I'm a really kind guy. I'm a really sensitive guy. I love everybody. I love people. I love animals. If it's got a life, I just love it. I'm like a little child when it comes to that kind of shit, right? That's the part of me that I enjoy, that I love, right? I would only allow myself to, I would only let that part of me come out if I was in a relationship. If I was not in a relationship, I'd suppress all that shit because society says you're supposed to be this big tough dude that goes to the gym all day and has this deep fucking thing with veins popping out of your face, you know? And so whenever I was kind of going down my own path, I just, you know, I was like, okay, you know what? I don't give a shit that society says that I need to be this way. I don't give a shit that society says I'm supposed to have my life together, have a crystal clear direction of which way I want to go. I just want to live my life the way I want to live my life. So I fucked off to Alaska. I would start traveling all over the world. I got reprimanded by almost every fucking person that I know because they were like, John, what are your goals? And I was like, fuck goals, man. All I have is right now. I'm gonna fucking live right now and enjoy my life right now, you know? And it was so crazy because, you know, whenever you kind of like just find joy in now, doesn't matter how shitty your situation is right now, right? There's always something that you can be happy about or laugh about, right? And if you're thinking, oh, I've got 2 pennies to rub together and I'm sitting, you know, inside of my mom's basement, how am I supposed to find something to laugh about? Laugh about the fact that you got 2 pennies. You know, it's like it's one of those things where it's like, if you focus on how shitty the situation that you're in is, then that's what you'll focus on, right? And that's what it was kind of for me, is I was so focused on my whole existential being is, or my whole being is like, I'm supposed to just sit here and worship in a God I don't even believe, and at the end of this shit, I'm gonna die anyways, and I don't even want to be here because taxes are such a bitch. So, because I'm a business owner, and so I get popped with 14% on top of the taxes that everybody else pays just because I'm a business owner, and so I just, I'm just like, man, fuck this shit, but you kind of just embrace you kind of like the military thing, right? Embrace the shit, right?
Yeah.
If you just embrace the shit and find joy in the shit, then you can, said like you said. I mean, that's whenever all of my alcoholic stuff went away, the crazy tendencies, it was like trying to find purpose through another relationship. That was the biggest one for me. Like, I wanted a family so bad, and I wanted to be a provider so bad that I would date a girl, and immediately my intentions would go to, you're going to be the mother of my children. Just like,
well, that can't be a healthy relationship.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And it's just like, you're the mother of my children, you are the purpose of my existence. Like, literally I would put all this shit on their shoulders, and it's just like, oh my God, but that's just kind of my stuff.
Have you ever heard the story of the fisherman and the capitalist?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That one,
that's
that
what
one
I was
did
thinking
it
of
for
when you were
me.
talking about that.
That one did it for me, man. I was just like, man, at the end of the day,
I'm already relaxing next to my boat.
I know.
Why do I need all that stuff?
I know, and that really inspired. It really inspired me to just go live my life, and I found so much joy in that, because I'm a business owner. I came from a family of business owners. My lawyer is my lawyer. My brother is a lawyer. My other brother is like a big shot business owner. Both of them are making copious amounts of money. And I'm a business owner too, but I don't make anywhere near that amount of money because I focus on freedom. I don't want to be disturbed. I don't want to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning every day. I don't want to, so that's how I build my businesses. That's how I build everything, is with the intention of, if I want to go do some stupid shit and go chase sheep in my fucking yard on a Tuesday, that's what I want to do, and so, yeah, man, I mean, I catch it all the time where it's like, my brother, I went to Egypt, and my brother, he's a lawyer, makes plenty of money and all that kind of shit, and he was kind of judging my Egypt trip based off of where I stayed, the way I got around Egypt. Oh, did you take a taxi? Did you walk? Did you take a bus? Which bus did you take? Which taxi did you take? Oh, you went to go stay in Egypt. Where did you stay did you stay at the Hilton, or did you stay at a hostel? Like, all
staying at the hostel is the way to go to actually experience the culture and stuff.
You experience the culture. You experience meeting new people. Like, it's so much better, But it was so funny because it was exactly that whole thing where it's like, dude, I don't fucking care. I'm still in Egypt. It's like, it doesn't matter that dude has got, has rented out the Mercedes, and I'm, taking taxis everywhere. We're eating at the same fucking restaurants. We're experiencing the same fucking geography. Like, it doesn't matter, But yeah, I mean, that's so true. And I think that's something that, kind of guys in the younger generation, could really benefit from, is not, don't take your life so fucking serious.
Yeah.
It's something to be enjoyed. It's not something to be stressed about. I think of all this stuff. I don't know what Church of Christ was like, but I know how Baptists were, and I think of all this stuff that's going on kind of in Iran and Israel right now, and I know for a fact that if I was still a part of the religion, I would be stressed. I'd be praying every night once again, God, please save me. I don't want to go to hell. I know you're about to come back. Jesus is definitely coming back this time. I swear it's definitely this time.
I've tried making bets with a couple people where I'm like, I'll bet you $20,000 Jesus doesn't come back in the next 50 years. And they're like, I'm not going to take that bet. I'm like, But you think he's going to come back, right?
Yeah,
soon?
exactly.
If 50 years isn't soon, I don't know what soon is.
Yeah, exactly.
And, yeah.
All right,
But
so
I think
so we've kind of got you walking away from the faith a little bit, and kind of let's go a bit deeper into the philosophy on your side of things, because I know you said that that's kind of what pulled you out of kind of like the suicidal ideation and just kind of the the non-enjoyment of life. But to me, that's the important thing to talk about, because in Christianity, joy is impossible to have without God. Peace is impossible to have without God. Any of the fruits of the Holy Spirit, it's impossible to have these things without Jesus. And so, if I put you up here, put you up on a banner and said, look, this guy's an atheist and he's found peace and joy in his life, immediately they're going to backfire with, no, he hasn't. No, he's not. Oh, and just gaslight the shit out of you. But like, let's get in a little bit into some of the thoughts and the ideologies and stuff like that, because unfortunately, suicidal ideation, I'm sure, is at an all-time high. I mean, you look at the world, you look at the world that young men are being dealt right now, and I'm sure that there's just a bunch of guys going through it. So what are some of the thought forms? What are some of the things that you kind of uncovered that really helped you out, that you think could help out the younger generation?
I don't know how to broach this subject, because this is going to be faux pas the right word?
Yeah. I don't need
a bit of a hot take.
Yeah, I don't need like a deep philosophical answer, but like for me, like with Buddhism, it was just the non-attachment of things, And for you, it was the story of the guy who for eternity had to roll. Right. So what are some of those like feelings and thought forms that kind of help you bring yourself back to who you are?
That's this is controversial, to put it lightly.
Well, the channel's controversial.
Okay. Well, I'm actually a communist as well.
Okay.
And so it was diving into the philosophy behind communism and stuff, and the goal of, how you're saying you hate that grind that we're forced to have and stuff. Well, it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
And so, like Karl Marx says, that philosophers have analyzed the world, but our goal should be to change it.
Yeah.
And so we have the means of giving everybody a decent life. Right. Maybe not to the excesses of Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, right. But everybody can live comfortably if we all just kind of, work together at it.
Right.
And so embracing that and becoming more politically active, in trying to make the world a better place for my children, right. So they don't have to grow up thinking like, oh, I wake up every morning to go to work and help somebody else live their dream, you know? Like, I'm putting in 65 hours a week at work so my boss can go on vacation,
Right.
Like,
right.
Where's my vacation?
Right, exactly. And it's so funny you say that, because, at the end of the day, I think that, guys on the channel, if you're right or left leaning, we try not to deal with politics here, whatever. But
that's why I was hesitant to bring it up, because I didn't.
But I think that the healthiest form of humanity is a type of communism, or is a type of colony where everybody is helping to serve the whole, right? But with capitalist societies, you have this, I'm serving myself. How can I manipulate a bunch of people to serve myself? Whenever I was a business owner, I had such a big problem. So I started off as a contractor, and I never liked telling people how much the bill was. I hated that conversation. And so eventually I started working with insurance companies and warranty companies, because I could give a rat's ass. I'm telling what something costs to a computer, not to a human being. So it didn't bother me. But whenever I started my janitorial company, because first for a period of time I had a commercial cleaning company. Whenever I moved back from Alaska, I'd opened a commercial cleaning company, and janitors make like $10 an hour, $12 an hour. It is not a high paying job. If you do the work, it's hard fucking work. It is really hard fucking work. And to do a janitor shift for 12 hours, fuck, man. Like by 8 hours, your body's done. Like it literally feels like construction. And I would go around and I would give quotes to people. And this is the part where I kind of really started to see the dirtiness of the society that we live in. I would run around and I'd give quotes to people, and immediately, and I'm not giving quotes because I want to be a millionaire kind of thing. I'm just like, okay, this is my cost of services. I pay my cleaners above market wages because I can't imagine paying a person $10 an hour. Like, I just don't feel human paying a person $10 an hour in this economy, And so I was paying my cleaners $16 to $18 an hour was kind of the average pay for working for me. And I would go out and I would give these people quotes, and I would just have a few dollar markup, total cost of expenses, and I would try to mark up my services maybe $5 per hour on what roughly my cleaner costs, chemical costs, plus an extra $5 an hour. And so, profit on a single day of everybody working may have been like $150. It's very low for business standards. And what always shocked me was the general population, the sheer disdain for the kind of the idea of what a person's value is based off their job, right? Like, yeah. I would give a person a quote and I would say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost. Now, I came from contracting, and so I was very used to, this is the math, this is how the money works right for me, this is how much you need to pay for it to work, yes or no, right? Just very blunt kind of quoting. Yeah. And I remember I would give people these quotes, and I would just get met with, are you serious? I could do this shit myself. What makes you think that I'm going to pay a cleaner, this kind of money and all this kind of shit? And it was just
if you could do it yourself, you wouldn't have contacted me.
Right. If you could do it yourself, you wouldn't have contacted me, right? But at the end of the day, it's like people just have this grotesque view of like, well, I'll find somebody for $8 an hour to come over here and do. I'm like, go look. Nobody who's respecting themselves is going to work for $8 an hour, Yeah. And so, man, it was just like I would give these people quotes, just like genuine, normal quotes, and they would just be like, no, you're paying way too much money. And then they would literally go and find an immigrant worker and pay them, $11 an hour for, stupid amounts of work. There was one business that I had gone to. There was one surgical center that I had gone to that was getting their entire surgical center cleaned by a single Hispanic cleaning with vinegar, cleaning a hospital with vinegar, but the price was right, And then it's like with this other company. Oh, I kind of forgot off the top of my head which company it was, but that's right. They had this mother. They were paying the mother alone $12 an hour, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and it was an illegal worker, and it was 9 to 5, and they were only paying the mother $12 an hour, and it was like 300,000 square feet of facility that needed to be cleaned. One person for 300,000 square feet. No big machines, no big scrubbers, fucking
just a lady in a mop bucket.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And so I ran into the lady while I was kind of assessing to give them quoted, services, because that's what they wanted. They just wanted a quote. And I was asking the lady, like, hey, how's it like working here? What's the client like? All that kind of stuff. And she was like, oh, well, it's pretty good. They pay me $12 an hour, and I'm here Monday through Friday and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I see you're here with your daughter. How much do they pay your daughter? Oh, well, they don't pay my daughter. I just have my daughter here to help me. And I'm just like, are you fucking serious, dude? Like, literally, it's like this company that is like a high-end luxury brand is literally...
They could definitely afford to pay.
That could definitely afford to pay some American workers, not trying to like segregate Americans versus other humans on the planet. There's no sides on a round planet. But it's just like, and not even multiple, like not even paying the daughter, just paying the mother alone, and then on top of that paying kind of a BS wage because the mother was responsible for providing all the chemicals for fucking 300,000 square. It was shocking. And so that's why, I didn't like. For me, it was such a pinch, and that's why I eventually just sold the business and got out of the industry, because it was like, from the client, I'm being pinched with no respect for the services, no respect for humanity, no respect for a person who wears the badge of a janitor. And then on the human side of things, I'm getting pinched from, hey, look at the economy. These people need fucking money. $10 an hour, $12 an hour is not going to cut it, And so it's like, I don't want to pay $10 an hour, so I'm here paying $16 to $18 an hour, and I've got a bunch of clients who are disrespecting people, and they just don't see the trade as a valuable thing, and then a vacuum cleaner breaks, or something like that, and
it's crazy how people disrespect janitors so much when you get mad if shit's filthy. Like, if you go into a bathroom and it's nasty, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
So respect the people who make it nice for you,
You go to, why do you like to go to oh, well, you're on the East Coast, so maybe you know about, you don't. But we have this big, massive gas station here in the South called, and the way got their name was having clean bathrooms. That's it. All the other gas stations were filth. As gas station bathroom. Nobody wants to clean it. It's pretty gross. Literally just clean their bathrooms constantly throughout the day. That's all they did, was clean their bathrooms constantly throughout the day. They ended up growing to like this big, massive, multi-state corporation with like hundreds and hundreds of locations. They're this premium brand, just like they're everywhere down here across the South. Literally just off of cleanliness, and whenever I go to a person, they're just like, yeah, but you're just a cleaner. How hard can it be? And I'm just like, oh my God, And so, yeah, I do think, I'm a business owner, and so I do kind of like the taxes and all that kind of stuff, the alleviation of taxes for people who want to start businesses. But at the same time, it is just like, the way that things run, we're replacing people who need to, you're a cook. Let's say your restaurant decides, we're replacing all of you with AI. Okay, great. Now you've got AI cooks in the kitchen. Cool. They're doing a good job, whatever. Somebody goes down the street, they're a mailman. They replace the mailman with AI. Then he goes down the street, they're a repairman. Replace the repairman with AI. Somebody goes down the street to the truck drivers. Replace the truck drivers with AI, which is actually happening, which is fucking scary. Who's going to buy the fucking products?
Yeah.
No, all these companies have these like massive fucking wallets now, which great for them, I guess. But then nobody's out here getting money, so who the fuck is going to buy? Or maybe I can't say that.
I was going to say.
Maybe I have to bleep that out. I have no idea what YouTube's rules are, but it's like, who's gonna buy these fucking one of the big beverage companies just laid off like something 100,000 workers for AI, and it's just like, who's gonna buy your shit if everybody gets replaced with AI? You're gonna have robots buying stuff, like,
Yeah, I mean, you don't even need to replace the workers with AI. You're already seeing it nowadays where people just aren't paid enough to buy the things that we used to.
Yeah.
I work in a restaurant, and business is down 30% from like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
because people just don't have disposable income anymore to go out to a restaurant.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
And it's kind of the same thing with it's kind of the same thing with sorry. It's kind of the same thing with like cleaning services, because whenever money tends to get tight, people tend to off the cleaning people because they're trying to save every dollar that they can, and so typically the first people who are cut are like marketing and cleaning, you know. But yeah, at the end of the day, you know, what we're seeing is the fruits of our labor, right? We're seeing the the system at its peak. You know, when capitalists are when capitalists are running at full, you know, selfish desires 100%, which is kind of what capitalist is designed for, is that you can be, as long as you can find some poor sap who's willing to work for pennies, you can keep the dollars, right? And so you just see that in almost every sector. You see that in the airline industry. You see that in the food industry. You see that in manufacturing and all sorts of stuff. You know.
'cause, yeah, that's if you're not the most bloodthirsty capitalist you can be, the more bloodthirsty capitalist is going to outcompete you and then buy you up or corner you out the market, and you'll end
Right.
up going out of business.
It's like,
So you have to be as bloodthirsty and penny pincher as possible,
yeah,
or your business is going to fail eventually.
yeah. There was a lawsuit I had read about, not read, but I had watched a video about a lawsuit a long time ago, which was kind of like one of the lawsuits that defined the purpose of the corporation. And it was between, I have no idea. I may have to bleep all this stuff out. but it was against the two big automotive companies, and one automotive company had a plethora of money, and they were thinking, okay, well, we have all this money, what are we going to do with it? And so they decided they were going to start, you know, giving their employees bonuses, health stuff, you know, just kind of lavishing the money for the employees. And the other brand had a problem with that. Now think about that. You have a company, you're focused on your company, you love your employees, you've got all this extra money, you want to throw it up in the air and say hooray, and then your competitor down the street is like, no, fuck you, we're gonna sue you for that, you know? And
yeah, because then our employees are going to expect the same treatment, or they're going to leave our business to go to yours because you have better.
And that's exactly what happened. They ended up winning the lawsuit in defining that the corporation was to serve the interests of the shareholders only. Like that was the definition of, you know, the corporation does not exist to serve the people who work for it. It serves strictly to serve the shareholders, right? And so, you know, then you see the shit that we see now, you know, and it's just like, oh, well, no shit, you know? No wonder why we have corporations, you know, making shitty fucking products, like these big vehicle manufacturers making the shittiest fucking products that they can, trying to keep all the money that they can for the shareholders, right? And who's stuck holding the bag? The people who work for the corporation, the people who buy the product, right? It's crazy. I watched a podcast where one of the big car manufacturers, whenever they came together to decide a car and they found that there was going to be an issue with a car, their finance department would run a calculation on, would it be cheaper to pay the recalls or would it be cheaper to fix the vehicle? And they would just do whatever was cheaper. If it was cheaper to deal with the lawsuits, then they would just deal with the lawsuits. And if it was cheaper to fix the vehicle, then they would just fix the vehicle. But it's just like, and then what would they do with the extra money? Dividends, you know?
I'm not going to say the brand name because of what you've been saying about having to bleep stuff out.
I have no idea. I'm going to have to check later.
But I think it's a German pharmaceutical company. It's a name brand. You would know it.
Yeah.
Here, I'll just say it, and then you can bleep it out if you have to. But
I've already got and all those other people to bleep out anyway.
But
yeah,
I believe I could be wrong, but they released some medication, and it was tainted, and it was giving people HIV. And so there was a huge recall on it. And so they recalled it all. And they said, well, it'd be a huge waste of money to dispose of all this. So instead, they sold it to poor Asian countries, like South Asian countries and African countries. And now there's a whole bunch of lawsuits in Africa and Asia
But they're
about
cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
They were all like, well, these people can't actually afford to do anything to us, so
Right.
we're not going to dispose of this HIV tainted medicine. We'll just give it to people who can't do anything about it.
That's so crazy, man. I mean, it's the system's broken. There, that's for sure. I mean, it's very obviously serving a class of people that, you know, you look at the files, the Epstein files, and know that the class of people are not the best in the country. You know,
That's
and even
the haves versus the have-nots.
Yeah,
the have-nots. There's
yeah.
more of us than there are of them.
Exactly, man. It's really disappointing to see, but okay, so
Sorry, we went on a bit of a tangent there, but the reason I brought up my communist beliefs,
yeah, sure,
because you're asking what sort of advice I would give to
that's
younger
right.
people.
Wow, that was okay. We went off a hell of a tangent.
but our society kind of enforces this like rugged individualism. You have to do everything on your own.
Yeah.
Be all about yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of glorifies selfishness in a way.
Right.
But the truth is, you don't have to do anything alone.
Right.
It's important to have a strong support system. Like my girlfriend and I have been together for almost 20 years. You were talking about you had to reset your life a whole bunch.
Yeah.
But I've never had that. You know, I've had her at my side the whole time. And we've gone through everything together. And it's when you realize you don't have to go through things by yourself.
Yeah.
And you can rely on friends and family to support you through situations. That helps a lot, especially with like struggling with the things that you and I have struggled with.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a reason a lot of people struggle leaving the church, like people who might not believe anymore, but they don't want to lose that community.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big weakness of not the atheist community, but just like non-believers in general. We have that lack of space where we can kind of, support each other.
Come together, support each other, right?
Yeah, which is why when I found the atheist community on the internet, it made me feel, even though this is the first time I've ever talked to anybody about any of this, but, knowing that those people are out there, like, lifted a weight off of me, like, so it is possible to exist in this way.
Yeah.
To have that, there's support there should I ever need it.
Yeah. And I think that is such a, kids nowadays, or I guess maybe young adults, whatever, dudes, the idols that society is feeding them for what is right to be a human or what is right to be a guy is just, it is work yourself to the death. It is grind until, push yourself to the limit, push yourself to the point to where you have nothing left to give, and then crawl,
Somebody just sent me a picture of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and it said, "You go work for somebody else for 8 hours a day. You must not care about yourself if you're not willing to work 8 hours for yourself after that."
Yeah.
I was like, that you're gonna kill yourself.
Dude, I've had businesses where it's been all me, 100% me. And then I've had businesses where it's a group of people and everybody is working toward the same good. Not to plug communism. But, but
all we really want is for the workers to, have some say in their work,
Right. But it's like, I've had both businesses. As a person, I feel much more fulfilled and happy when I'm working with a group of people where we all have the same goal. That's just what it comes down to,
Yeah.
Like my contracting business, it's a solopreneur kind of thing. I am the receptionist, I am the worker, I am everything, you know? I'm God. No, I'm just kidding. But it's just
Yeah,
like,
you can be. You exist.
yeah, exactly. And it's just like, dude, you know, whenever I did the janitorial company, I hated it. I hated it because I loved my workers so much, and I hated to see how people disrespected them because they were cleaners, you know, and I hated to see that people would not let me, you know, charge fair rates so that I could pay my cleaners better, because I wanted to pay my cleaners 18 to 20 bucks an hour, because let's be real, in the fucking world that we live in, 20 bucks an hour is like a minimum at this point, right? It's just what you got to have if you want to have the American dream kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
And and then I get hit with people who are like, "No, your human beings are not worth that." It's like I get a protective, like, "No, fuck you, man." You know? It's like,
But, I've worked in restaurants my whole life, and it sucks. I mean, I've been a cook, so I get paid an hourly wage. My
yeah,
pay is the same regardless. But to hear the servers come in the kitchen and be like, this table tipped me, they said that the food was too expensive, so they didn't tip me at all, not knowing that servers are paid by crowdfunding. You know,
yeah,
the business, the restaurant doesn't pay the servers.
right.
You know, the customers pay the servers.
Yeah, what's
So
the hourly rate for the servers? It's like 2 an hour or 4 an hour or something like that.
yeah,
It's
it's
like
like
stupid
like
low.
$2.35 or something where I live.
Yeah,
$2.35 an hour.
it's stupid.
Um,
You're basically working for
yeah,
free. You live off of tips, you know?
yeah, you really do.
It's
And
crazy.
so when customers refuse to tip servers based off something that wasn't the server's fault, you know, the servers don't choose the price of the food on the menu.
Yeah,
And so for you to punish the server, you've done nothing.
yeah,
Like the boss, well, my boss still got his money.
yeah,
So
yeah,
you're only punishing a worker here.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
It's crazy, man. I mean, the system that we have, I think it was created with good intentions, but just executed poorly. And I think whenever people think of the Communist Party and they kind of see a lot of the issues with history, it all comes down to bad government and corruption, you know? And so that's kind of where I'm at with things. It's like I am hopeful for the future of this kind of like unity utopia, but at the same time, you know, we look at the guy in the presidential office and we think, well, if he's the leader, then that system would never fucking work. You know, I mean, look at the system we have now. It's not fucking working with that guy in
yeah.
office, you know?
But I think him being in office is uniting us in a way that you might not expect, because
Yeah,
his approval ratings like record lows. He's uniting the country against him.
yeah.
You know?
I think Biden has a higher approval rating than you know than,
Um,
than Trump
but
right
that's the
now.
thing. He's got like what 18 billionaires on his staff or something like that.
Yeah,
You know, so
yeah,
you see who's really running the government.
yeah.
It's not the people. It's the businesses.
And then you see the war, you know? I mean, like, we were getting into the belly of the Epstein files, and then suddenly all this other shit came out in the last, you know, it's like every single time we get close to what this guy has done, which is really exposing the darkness that exists, suddenly it's the Super Bowl. It's whatever, you know, it's the tariffs, it's whatever to distract us. And now it's the fucking war in Iran. It's like everything to keep us from looking at, you know, who runs the show, right?
Yeah.
And I think as long as Americans can kind of keep that focus of let's not get, you know, fooled by all the kind of shit that's being thrown at us, and let's focus on the goal. Look who's running the show, you know. Let's, you know, I heard somebody say we couldn't go after the Epstein files because if we did, then all the world governments would fall apart. And I'm like, well, then let them fucking fall.
Yeah.
You know, like if
Yeah.
those are the human beings that we have running the earth, the shit needs to fall apart. You know.
There was an old president. It might have been FDR. I could be mistaken, but when they instituted minimum wage, a bunch of businesses were like, "We're going to go out of business if you institute minimum wage."
Yeah.
And the president was like, well, if you can't afford to pay your employees a minimum wage, you don't deserve to be in business. Sorry, that them's the breaks.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, I 100% agree. Okay, John, is there any topic that you want to explore before we kind of terminate the interview here? Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to touch on? I remember that we had touched on the idea of the old atheists you would encounter versus the atheists you encounter now.
Yeah, when I was in late high school, I want to say like my senior year, I was maybe 18. I found some atheists on the internet. I don't remember their names. This was like the early days of YouTube. Like YouTube just became a thing, so it might not have even been on YouTube. But they were mean. Is that the way to say it? Like they were just rude,
angry.
And yeah. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm angry sometimes as well.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Christians are a tough crowd sometimes. They really just poke and prod and push and push and push, and it's like, back the fuck off, dude.
Yeah. Like, no, you really believe. No, I really don't. Like, no, my book says you really do. I'm like, well, your book's full of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't know what to tell you. But no, they were just coming off. It was so condescending and like arrogant, kind of, which was really off-putting to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm very much, you know, I'm willing to be convinced.
Right.
You know,
right.
I don't deal in complete absolutes.
Yeah.
Like any belief I have, I'm willing to be convinced otherwise of. You just have to convince me.
Right, right.
And they were so just arrogant and conceited. And I was like, this is awful. Like, I'm not one of these guys.
Yeah, yeah.
But then during COVID, I found, like the Atheist Experience and Alex O'Connor and stuff like that. And I was like, wait, I mean, the Atheist Experience can get kind of heated sometimes too, but they were like, convince me, you know?
Right,
like,
right.
You know, they weren't just all like, no, we're absolutely right no matter what. They were like, no, just give us your best evidence, you know, we'll hear you out. And, but that made me, I found all that stuff and I was like, oh, there are good atheists out there, you know?
Yeah.
Like people who aren't complete douchebags.
Right. No,
and,
whenever I kind of like started this whole thing, that the purpose of this channel was just for Christians who were kind of struggling, you know, let's have conversations about it. Let's look at the Bible. Let's look at the shit that doesn't make sense and all that kind of stuff. And I remember at a certain point, down in the comment section, you just get a whole bunch of holy roller Baptist whatever that are just like, you just need Jesus, you just need Jesus. And it's like, dude, I grew up in that shit. Like, that didn't do it, you know? Like, I want to make it abundantly clear. When I attempted suicide, my Bible was on my nightstand, you know? So I was reading that shit on a daily basis. You know, I was doing my devotions, I was going to church, being active. Did not change the fact that I still said, all right, I'm out, you know? But the thing I love about the atheist perspective is it's, you know, it's kind of what I believe too. It's like, okay, if a God does exist, you know, Christians have this idea that it's like God is completely separate from this planet, whatever. But my thing is like, no, if a God does exist, you should be able to find him.
Yeah.
Right?
If they're
you know?
If they're interacting with the physical world, there should be some traces of it interacting with the physical world.
Right.
You know?
And if it really is this guy like in the Old Testament that he's, you know, shouting from the skies at these people and he's throwing these fucking pillars of fire and pillars of clouds and all this kind of, like, if this shit's real, then we should be able to experience the same damn thing. Like, it shouldn't be something that's so damn hard to understand and experience and all that kind of stuff. And that's why for me, you know, I found, you know, even though personally I still believe in some sort of intelligence, I found more solace with atheists than I did with Christians. And it was just like, because they're rational. You know, Christians are just irrational, and it's like they're the kind of people where it's like you can show them something and they do not care. They're like, I don't care, I still believe this. You know, it's like with the book of Genesis, you can bring up the fact that, okay, if Moses, you know, wrote, I always make this argument. So I'm going to whip out a couple of books here. I'm going to whip out a couple of books here because I make this argument with Christians all the damn time. But, you know, Paul, how do we know that when Paul was talking to Jesus, that he was actually talking to Jesus? Because Jesus was dead and gone, right?
Yeah.
So how was Paul talking to Jesus when he came up with the Trinity, when he came up with the fact that Jesus died on the cross for our sins and that all of our good works are filthy rags? Like, where did Paul come up with this stuff, right? In his conversations with Jesus. Oh, well, he was being told directly to God, right? And it's like with Genesis, how do we know what Adam and Eve said? How do we know those conversations? How do we know the conversations that took place in the garden between Adam and God? You know, how do we know these things? Oh, well, this is what God told Moses. You know, well, Moses doesn't exist. I don't know what the fuck to tell you, right? Let's not go down that rabbit hole. But it's just like, you know, it's always God told this guy. God told this guy. And so what I always bring up to people is like, there's a bunch of books, right? Here's one. It's called A Course in Miracles. There's another one. It's called The Law of One. There's another one that is called, what? The Unknown Life of Jesus Christ. There's another one called A Way of Mastery. There's another one called Living Peace. It's like this idea that God is speaking to, you know, to only these people and giving them it's, if we accept the stuff in the Bible, then we should also accept the stuff outside the Bible, you know? And the reason for that is just because these books are so much nicer than the fucking Old Testament God, you know? It's like, these books are like, yeah, you know, we're all, you know, these beautiful things that exist on the planet. We're just here to enjoy and experience and have loving experiences with each other. And then you look at what Paul says, and Paul's just like, if an angel comes from heaven and tells you something different than what I tell you, curse that dude. You know, like
it sounds like a cult leader. You know?
Exactly. And it's just like, and you see all this kind of stuff of just like these extremely hateful teachings that are inside of Christianity, but you're never going to get Christians to call them hateful because God is a loving God. And so when God is cursing you and damning you to hell, what he means to is fuck you. You know?
I try not to talk to my girlfriend too much. We keep religion kind of off topic.
Yeah. For sure.
But I was telling her one of the reasons why I don't want our kids to be indoctrinated in Christianity the way I was as a kid is because I feel like that's where a lot of my insecurity and my self-hatred, self-loathing, that was the word I was looking for earlier.
Yeah,
self-loathing.
Yeah.
Comes from. Because you're taught that, you know, without Jesus, you're worthless. Like,
yes.
humans are, we're just huge pieces of shit, you know?
Yeah.
And
I think
we rely on Jesus and God to make us clean and good. And even with Jesus' sacrifice, we're still filthy pieces of shit.
Right.
And we have to constantly ask for forgiveness and stuff.
Right.
And even if you don't believe in that, just having that drilled into you that you're a piece of shit day in and day out.
And from 4 years old, is that appropriate at 4 years old? Is that appropriate at 6? At 9?
And then,
you know?
But then my girlfriend was like, no, you know, maybe that's what your church taught. I'm like, no, it's in the Bible. Even if it's not what you explicitly say in your church, the implication is still there. Jesus is here to save you. Save you from what? From being a piece of shit. You know? Like, if I wasn't a piece of shit, why would I need to be saved, you know?
Right.
So like the implication is there, and if you're not an idiot, you can put 2 and 2 together. Even if all your church teaches is God is love and stuff like that, the implication is still there that we are shitty.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Whenever I was in Alaska, kind of post my attempted suicide, I moved to Alaska thinking that the problem was my family and all that kind of stuff. And what I found is that all of my problems packed in my carry-on and went with me to Alaska, you know? And so that's where I kind of had to like start.
There you are.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where I started sitting with the fact like, oh no, this is stuff that I have to deal with myself. Like, it's not, just because I have, some experiences, whatever. If I keep holding on to all of the hatred I have for my family, all of the hate, whatever, if I keep holding on to this shit's only serving to hurt me, right? And so I started doing therapy, and I started kind of going what I like to call a forgiveness journey, where I forgive my parents for everything they ever did to me. I forgive my ex-wife for everything she ever did to me. I forgive everybody. Forgive. Forgive myself for the beliefs that I put myself through. Forget, all that kind of stuff. And what I noticed was, while going through that journey, I started to love myself more, and I started to have so much more compassion for myself and for what I'd experienced. And it got to the point to where it was like, I don't need Jesus to love me.
Yeah.
I can love myself. Like, I love my life. I love my experience. I don't need some dude outside to rescue me. Like, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean I'm rolling in dough and I've got the greatest life. But I don't need to be rescued from it. I don't need a person to tell me that my life is shit. I don't need a person to tell me that I'm trash just because I'm not a Christian, Or we're not telling you that. What we're just telling is that everything that you do is trash. We're not calling you trash,
Everything about you is trash.
Yeah, It's like, oh, okay, my bad. Appreciate that.
You have the essence of trash.
Exactly. And it's just like, whenever I really just started, kind of focusing on myself, loving myself, and kind of like changing my whole belief system to be more healthy for me and to work more for me, it was like, something bad would happen in my life, and it wasn't a bother. I didn't blame it on Satan. I didn't blame it, oh, God's got it out for me. It's like, no, I'm a human being. Shit happens. It's like, I'm not trying to run away. And I think you see this so much in Christianity, people trying to run away from the experience of life. They're trying to offload all the blame of the things that maybe they did for themselves. It's like, oh, I've got cancer and there's this horrible thing that Satan gave me, and now I'm praying to God to take away my cancer. Well, God wasn't the one who spent 40 years shoving you full of bacon grease.
My son was actually born with a faulty valve in his heart.
Yeah.
And he spent the first 2 years of his life in the hospital.
Yeah.
And he ended up needing a heart transplant. But on the way to the hospital for my girlfriend to give birth to him, they had a little prayer circle in the van, and they're like, God, we pray that you make this a healthy baby, an easy delivery, all the normal shit.
Yeah.
And then the delivery went terribly, had to have an emergency C-section. Like anything that could go wrong went wrong.
Yeah.
He was born premature, and so the doctors are like, yeah, he's doing well. He's recovering well. We're going to let him out of the hospital in a couple days. We just have to run one more test. They're praying like, oh, yeah, God blessed you. He got you through this. And then he gets rushed across the state to a heart specialist hospital.
Yeah.
He's about to die. And I was like, oh, well, there's your God for you.
Yeah.
And so this whole process for years, they're coming to the hospital and praying, God will make this better, blah, blah. And I'm just like, your God is the one who gave him the faulty heart, if this is what you believe. Like, he could have just not done that.
Right.
Why are you asking him to change what he did?
Right.
Is he going to listen to you?
Yeah, man. And there's so many times in the Bible where it's like God does something and then regrets it, It's like that immediately shows that he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know the beginning and the end. He doesn't know, it's like, how could a perfect God that makes zero mistakes have regret? It's impossible, right? But here we are,
something that I always wondered as a kid, like with the whole Adam and Eve story.
Yeah.
And then Eve ate the fruit. God got mad, whatever. I was like, why didn't God just make them celibate? Like, not celibate, but like unable to reproduce at that point, and then make 2 new people.
Right.
And, you know,
it would have been so
like,
quick and easy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Or he could have, when he said, if you eat that fruit, you'll die, kill them right there.
Yeah.
And then be done with it.
Yeah.
Create 2 new people.
What I always tell people is, how is it loving for God to basically put a loaded handgun in the Garden of Eden?
Yeah.
You know, like, how is that loving? You know, hey, here's this thing that I will absolutely doom you to hell for. I'm gonna put it right in front of you. Don't touch it. You know?
But something that always confused me was, like, that's what I was always taught as a kid was, you know, Eve ate the fruit, God got mad, kicked him out the garden, right? But when I actually read the Bible, it wasn't that. It was he was afraid they were going to eat from the tree of life and live forever and be just like him.
Yeah.
So it wasn't because they ate the fruit of good and evil.
Yeah.
It was he was afraid they were going to eat the other fruit and live forever.
Yeah.
So if they had to eat that fruit to live forever, they were always going to die no matter what eventually, because they hadn't eaten the fruit of life.
Right.
So
there's a Gnostic belief that I think is so I think it's so spot on, but it's pretty interesting because, you know, at the end of the day, all of this stuff is just stories, right? But there's a Gnostic tradition that the reason why God didn't want Adam and Eve to eat the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil because God is not good. You know,
makes sense.
And so you know, the idea that God is just this crazy, emotional, you know, super jealous. You know, there were people who were Christians back in the day that looked at all of that information and said, well, God wouldn't want Eve to eat of the fruit of good and evil because they would see that the fruits of God are pretty fucking evil. And so how can God be jealous and scream at the universe that there is no other God but me if he's not jealous about something else? So there must be something else, you know? So there was like a whole sect of Christianity that split apart from the early church that believed that, you know, the creator God of this realm was pretty fucking dark, which read the Old Testament. I think it's pretty accurate. Yeah. You know? And that there was a different God and all this kind of shit. But, you know, at that point, it's like, okay, it's just more stories. But yeah, I think about that kind of crap all the time, where it's just like, you guys try so hard to make it make sense. Just accept that it doesn't. You know? Yeah. Like if I had a Christian walk up to me and say, oh yeah, absolutely nothing inside of this book makes sense, but I believe it just because I enjoy it and it brings me peace, I would respect that so much more. You know? Yeah. You know, because it's like, oh, okay, well, they know that none of the shit makes sense, and they're not trying to make it make sense, and they just want to believe it because they want to believe it. Well, there's people who believe in a flat earth and all sorts of shit out there, you know? So it's like, yeah. Okay, cool, you know? But, you know, they don't stop there. And they end up damaging relationships over it. They end up segregating families over it. They end up punishing kids over it. And because of the intense punishments, like my sister, she was born gay. How does that happen? That's impossible. You know, my sister chooses to be gay.
I've always said that, you know, God created mankind in his image, and he made gay people. So God's at least a little bi, right?
Yeah. Oh man, I gotta bring that up next time I see somebody. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. But yeah, and so, you know, their whole thing was like, well, God doesn't make mistakes, and being gay is a sin, so obviously your sister is just choosing to be gay. And it's just like, no. You know, it's like
I don't think people choose to be ostracized by society, you know,
or be born with a heart complication or missing limbs or, you know, some sort of mental ailment. You know, it's like, no, there's something, you know, math is not mathing here. So
that's I've often been asked, like, well, what would make you believe? And are you familiar with 1 Kings 18?
No, I'm not.
I forget which. It's one of the God prophets. Elijah, maybe.
Yeah, Elijah.
But yeah, Elijah. And he goes to this place, and there's all these prophets of Baal.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
There's like 400 of them, and he's all like, "We're gonna figure out which God is real right here and right now." It said, "Y'all build an altar, and I'll build an altar."
Yeah.
And then you'll pray to Baal to light your altar on fire, and then I'll pray to God and to light my altar on fire.
Yeah.
And they pray, and they're praying, they're screaming and hooting and hollering, and nothing
all
happens.
Sorts of crap. Yeah.
And Elijah starts talking shit like, "Oh, where's your God? Is he gonna do anything? Oh, looks like he doesn't exist." He's talking mad shit.
Yeah.
And then when nothing happens, he's like, "All right, it's my turn." And then he ups the ante. He's like, "Not only am I going to pray and have this light on fire, I want you to soak it in water first." Pours water all over it.
Yeah.
And then he prays, and then boom, lights on fire. And then he orders everybody to kill the prophets of Baal, and they slaughter all 400 of them in the river nearby.
Yeah.
But I always say, like, that sets a precedent.
Yeah.
I feel like that sets a precedent where. So I tell the Christian who said,
if you
like,
call on
I'll
God,
take this,
you know.
yeah. I go, "I'll take this piece of paper and soak it in water, and you pray to have it light on fire right here in my hand. And if it does, I'll believe instantly." I'm easy like that.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's you know, I don't. There's so many things. "Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God," and all this kind of bullshit. But it's like, it's not unreasonable. You know, if it was real, it wouldn't be unreasonable to, like, hey, you know, not to disturb you, God, I know you're sending millions of souls to hell, but if you aren't too busy, you know, you could do a 21st century demonstration, you know, that could be caught on, you know.
The thing is that there's so much precedent for it in the Bible. Like the 10 plagues of Egypt, where God proving him to the Pharaoh, like,
right.
"Listen to me, motherfucker. I can do all sorts of shit."
Right.
There's constant cases throughout the Bible. Jesus and his miracles were to prove that, you know, God was working through him and stuff, you know?
Right.
But nowadays I just have to take the word of a 2,000-year-old book.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it is crazy. All right, John.
Yeah.
Well, this was a great chat. Is there anything that you haven't said that you want to say, or any thoughts that you have that you haven't been able to express that you think would be really, really good for anybody who's listening to this conversation right now? Other than you're not alone. You don't have to do shit alone. Reach out for help. We're here. You know.
The exact words that were about to come out of my mouth was just, "You're not alone out there." You know.
Yeah.
Like I think that's why I think the work you're doing is very important to show, like, it's okay to question this stuff. Yeah. Like, you don't have to believe it.
For sure.
Like,
and you're not crazy for not believing it. I think that's the biggest thing, because Christianity, I mean, they will make you out to be the crazy one, you know?
Yeah, it's my girlfriend's dad sends me sermons and apologist videos sometimes.
Yeah.
And
I did want to ask you that. I made a video a while ago about kind of when you're walking away from Christianity, kind of how to handle family members and relationships and stuff like that. How do you handle your relationship with your girlfriend and with your girlfriend's family and stuff like that? It's you know, what I always tell people is it's just a classic game of learning boundaries and learning to assert your boundaries, and you know,
that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I got a few dislikes on that video, and I was just like, well,
really?
Yeah, that's what I was like.
Because, like I said, my girlfriend and I, we rarely bring up the topic at all, because she's a believer, but she doesn't really go to church often. She doesn't pray for meals or anything, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, she gets mad. She hears me say, "God damn it." She's like, "Could you not take the Lord's name in vain near me, please?"
Yeah.
But I used to go to church with her pretty regularly, and then she just stopped going. But yeah, it's just knowing how to live comfortably with people.
Yeah.
That's not the right way to phrase that. But
what I always say is that at the end of the day, you don't have you know, just because you disagree with a person doesn't mean that you can't have a beautiful life with them or have a beautiful exchange with them or appreciate them as a human. You know, it's like just because you don't believe the same thing doesn't mean that you have to, you know, be focus on that, kind of like the focusing on the problems versus focusing on the joy that you could potentially have, right? Like you don't have to focus on the fighting and the anger every step of the way, you know.
Yeah, and it's important to compromise, you know. I know she wants to teach our kids about her religion and stuff, and I said, can we just wait until they're old enough to at least understand?
Yeah.
And, you know, the simple compromise. But some people aren't willing to compromise, and I think that's where you run into issues.
Yeah.
Like, I started saying this earlier, but I think we got a little distracted. But it was Christmas or Thanksgiving. We were having dinner at her parents' house, and they were doing the prayer circle before dinner or whatever. And I was playing with my 2-year-old son in the other room, and they were like, "John, bring your son in here so we can pray." And I said, "Nah, we're good." And they were like, "No, you have to bring him in here." And this was the first time I've ever done it. Like, I've always been in the prayer circle with them and stuff. You know, I just kind of go through the motions to keep the peace.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was playing with my 2-year-old son. He doesn't need to be part of that shit.
Yeah.
But they got real mad. And they're like, "No, you need to bring him here right now." And I was like, "No, we're playing." Like, he's on the floor with his cards and stuff. I'm not bothering him for this.
Yeah.
And then eventually they calmed down. They're like, "All right, we'll just bless him from here then." I said, "Oh, you can do what you got to do, but we're staying over here."
Yeah. It's funny because with me, you know, at a certain point, I just decided, you know, I wasn't opposed to blessing the food. I wasn't opposed to all that kind of stuff. What I was opposed was to the idea of supporting that belief. Like I just didn't, you know, I didn't mind if we took a moment to appreciate that a cow died for this meal. I'm not opposed to that. Take a moment to appreciate that we had to kill a couple of plants to have this salad. I can appreciate that, right? What I didn't like was the idea that we need to thank Jesus. Jesus needs to be thanked for this meal. I was like, I'm thankful for the cow, thankful for the cook, thankful for the farmer, thankful for the earth for, you know, providing the fertilizer and the rain, thankful for all the other things that came together to create this meal. And you want to thank, you know, one dude that had no involvement, you know,
who died 2,000 years ago.
Yeah. And so, you know, I remember there's a couple of meals where it's like everybody's just deciding to pray and I'm just eating away, you know. And I got a couple of is he eating while we're praying? It's like, yeah, I don't give a shit, you know.
Yeah, that's so that made me so mad when my son was in the hospital and he got his heart transplant and stuff, and they're in there praying, "Thank God, thank Jesus for making this miracle happen." I'm like, no, he's been in here for 2 years with hundreds of nurses and doctors working around the clock to save his life.
Right.
Give them the thanks. Like, stop taking away their credit. Yeah. They've spent decades and hundreds of thousands of dollars on medical school to learn how to do what they did.
And they're probably
and you're
still
just
in
taking that all away from them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It makes me so frustrated.
That happens in the churches all the time too. You know, it's whenever, you know, I don't know if they had it in Church of Christ, but I know with Baptist, we used to perform, go up, sing a song for God, go up, play an instrument for God, whatever.
We didn't have instruments.
Yeah.
That's a big one though.
With us, we had instruments. They'd play their violin or whatever, and at the end, you weren't allowed to clap. You weren't allowed to give the musician any credit. Zero. None. I mean, the musician got zero credit for practicing all month long to perform this. You know, it was one of those things where it's like, God gets 100% of the credit, and I am this piece of garbage that this music came out of. You know?
Well, I mean, if that was the case, then you should be able to take somebody who has zero knowledge or talent in doing anything and put them up there and be like, "All right, now perform a concerto for me."
Yeah.
Who've never touched the instrument before. And it should happen, you know, if it's all from, you know.
Right. Let's start with Mambo number 5.
Well, I'm ready for Mambo number 6, so whenever
There
God's
you
ready.
go. There you go. All right, John.
Oh, there was one more story I wanted to bring up. I mentioned it in the email. So Church of Christ, I don't remember a lot of the specifics about the doctrine of the Church of Christ, because mind you, I was a kid and I also didn't pay much attention because I didn't really believe in any of it. But I knew you had to dress up nice. You were in God's house, so you needed to, be dressed up. No instruments. There were some other things I don't remember exactly. You're quiet while the preacher speaks. It's very like prim and proper. But then when my girlfriend and I first started dating, she invited me to go to her church. And I went to her church. And as soon as I walked in, I said, "You're all going to hell. Like, what the fuck is this?" They had like donut. People are in their pajamas. And it's just like casual Tuesday. Everybody's just hanging out. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I'm in a button-up shirt and slacks.
Fucking suit and tie, the whole thing, and they're out there. Pastors in a t-shirt and hoodie,
Yeah. And then, the service starts. And while the preacher's preaching, people are jumping up and, like, hooting and hollering and stuff and, like, waving around. I was like, what are they doing? The preacher's talking. And she's like, oh, the Lord's speaking through them. I'm like, no, the Lord's speaking through the preacher. They're interrupting.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, what the hell is going on? I was like, you're all going to hell. I can't be in here. It was mind-blowing.
That is so hilarious.
That's another thing that solidified my disbelief, because I was just like, there's no way that all these people believe in the same God.
Yeah.
My church and this church, they're so different.
Yeah. No, it was the same thing for me. It's funny, the person who pointed that out for me in my life was my drunk ass uncle. I love the guy to death. He grew up Baptist, all this kind of crap. His family was Mormon, and I loved my cousin, but my cousins were Mormon. They were going to burn in hell, right?
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, and so it was like this dynamic where I wanted to spend all my time with my cousins. I wanted to go hang out and go play with them, but every time we would spend time with them, it was like, my parents were in the background telling me, like, hey, your cousin's gonna burn in hell if he doesn't become Baptist. Like, you need to go witness to them and all this kind of crap, And so I would kind of like go spend time with them, but then occasionally it would seep out like, hey Danny, I really care about you, man, but you're just gonna burn in hell, man. You're not believing the right thing, So, anyways, long story short, we're having a Bible study at my house. A couple of the church families are coming over, and we're studying the Bible. We're talking, and it's one of those stupid, annoying Bible studies where you read and then every fucking person talks about what they got out of the scripture. I got out that Jesus just murdered some shit and started shit for no goddamn reason. Seems like Job was living a happy life, a loving life, and then God just fucked shit up because he was bored, And so anyways, so my uncle shows up at our house. He's drunk off of his ass, right? Just fucking stumbling over, just all sorts of shit, And my uncle is you could say agnostic, right? And so he comes in and he's stumbling in, and my mom is embarrassed because it's her brother and all that stuff, and I'm embarrassed because it's my uncle, and here we are, we got a church family here, and my uncle's drunk off of his ass and all this kind of stuff, And the kids, of the other family's kids, are like, their eyes are massive because they've never seen a drunk person before, They've been so sheltered, And so they were just kind of like beholden to the whole situation that was going on. And so the church family decided that they were going to take this moment to witness to my uncle. And I was just like, oh, this shit's not going the way you guys think it's going to go, And so, he brings out the KJV Bible, because if you use anything other than KJV, you're going to burn in hell. And so he pulls out the KJV Bible and he's going through the Romans Road and all that kind of stuff. And my uncle goes, "You know what's funny to me?" he's, he's like, "What?" Every time somebody tells me I'm going to hell, it's with that specific Bible. But you Baptists use that Bible. The Mormons use that Bible. The Catholics use that Bible. This people use that Bible. Those people use that Bible. And everybody tells me they're going to hell. And when I ask them about everybody else is also going to hell. So are we just all gonna go to hell? And at the time, dude, my 10-year-old mind was like fucking dumbfounded. I was like, oh my god, how does this make any fucking sense? You know? But it was...
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened to me when I asked my dad. We were driving past all those churches. I was like, oh, well, then none of this is real.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. It's like in that case, you know. And so you start to have conversations with people, and it's just like, how do you know for a fact that you're not going to go to hell? Oh, because I feel in my heart and I have peace. And I'm like, well, according to the Bible, Satan is false light. He brings peace, a false peace, and your heart is desperately wicked, and who can know it? So how do you know? You know? Yeah. So it's just kind of this thing where, you know, the arguments just go in circles. They just go in circles, and it's like, at what time do you want to step off of the fucking carousel? You know?
Just one last thing before we go. I know I said that last thing was the last thing.
No, it's fine.
This was a misstep on my part in high school. There was a girl who broke out crying in the middle of class, and everybody's like, "Oh, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And she said, "I'm just thinking about all the people in the world who haven't heard about Jesus and are going to go to hell." And, you know, and she was like sobbing. It was awful.
Poor girl.
And I was trying to soothe her, just being a dumb fucking 16-year-old kid. I went and put my hand on her shoulder. I said, "It's okay. None of it's real anyway, so you don't have to worry about it." And she just looked at me with like murder in her eyes. And I said, I'm so sorry. And I just
my bad. I was just trying to help you out. Didn't mean to make things worse.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you don't even have to worry about it because none of it's real anyways.
Yeah. No, but I mean,
she looked so mad.
But that's the damage.
I calmed her down a little. She wasn't crying anymore, though, so.
Yeah. No, but that's the damage, you know? That's the result of children listening to the hellfire and brimstone messages, right? You know?
Yeah.
It's like it completely takes away your sense of peace and your sense of direction, you know? The Bible Belt is one of the unhealthiest, highest poverty in the nation because everybody expects God to pull them out of everything, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, take care of yourself, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you need to take care of yourself, you know? Don't expect God to replace your dentist, you know? Or God to replace your cardiologist, you know? So, okay, John. Well, honestly, this was everything I was hoping it was going to be. Whenever I read your email, I was like, oh man, him and I have been through the same shit.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So
I just got out of it a little earlier than you did, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't actually leave it until like 24, 25, something like that. And so I had the experience of having a marriage ruined by it and all sorts of shit. Okay, John, well, we're going to go ahead and end the recording there, guys. If you enjoyed the episode, please like, comment, subscribe, and share this video around if you want to get the word out to, if you know anybody who's potentially, struggling with something. Also, my email, desertspring111@gmail.com. I'm always here to support people as they walk away from Christianity, so feel free to reach out to me if you want any resources or any help or just need emotional support. I'm always here for people like that. And without further ado, John, thank you for coming on to the show and sharing your experience.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll go ahead and end the recording. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Once again, please like, comment, subscribe. If you want to boost the algorithm, we have to do those things. Without that, these videos just kind of end up dead in the water. So if you can, I would really appreciate it. It would mean so much to me you'd be helping out a lot of people who are struggling with leaving Christianity and who are struggling finding their voice after leaving Christianity or knowing what direction to walk into. So, without further ado, guys, thank you so much for being on this video. And if you want to be a part of the show, down in the description box, you'll see my email, desertspring111@gmail.com. Please reach out to me. You can tell me your story, and then we can kind of schedule a date, whatever works for you. And we'd love to see you soon. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know I had a blast, and John is just such an amazing person. And yeah, I hope you guys. I hope to see you guys and hear from y'all soon. So have a great night.